That is look at where I'm standing. I'm standing at one of the temples here that they would build. Those pillars back there are built by Ramses, one of the Ramses pharaohs, and look at how huge this temple is. I mean, look at how big these pillars are. They're massive. They're humongous. Look at the people. And look at the pillars. Look at all these things that they did back in the days. And you know what I was thinking? The Bible says in the book of Acts, if you go with me to Acts chapter 7, start with verse 20, it says, "At this time Moses was born, and he was beautiful in God's sight. And he was brought up for 3 months in his father's house. And when he was exposed, Pharaoh's daughter adopted him and brought him up as her own son. And Moses was instructed in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and he was mighty in his words and deeds." Verse 23 says, and it says, "When he was 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brothers, the children of Israel." Now, listen, I just want to point out something here. He was instructed in all the wisdoms of the Egyptians. So he grew up amongst these temples. He went in and out of these temples, and these elaborate pillars that were built here, these things which were wonders in their time, magnificent. I mean, now we don't have them how they used to be. Massive, ginormous pillars. They had these giant gods at the beginning, which you can see. I'm going to actually put it on this video so you can see the different areas as I was walking through this. And Moses was instructed in all the wisdoms of the Egyptians. For 40 years he saw this, all of this. And the Bible in Hebrew says that he saw the pleasures of all of this as fading. He chose instead to pursue God, the true God, instead of pursuing these idols. I was sitting here just processing and thinking, how many things try to entice us? How many times we try to be like the world? We try to do like the world, and the world has all of these things which are shiny and huge and big, magnificent, and they look great. But how many of us are able to say no to these things and to choose God, to reject the wisdoms of the world and the ways of the world and choose God? The devil always wants to entice us. He makes things look so grandeur. Look at this temple. But when we see what God does with the children of Israel, he does a simple tent. For the longest time, he lived in a tent. He didn't even really ask for something huge and elaborate and big like this. Man can make something so big, so huge, so elaborate, but it is lifeless. It contains no life. And they try everything they can to reach the gods. So they think that if they build it high enough, big enough, then maybe, just maybe, the gods will hear them. In reality, we have a God who says if you go low enough, he'll come into your heart and live with you. So all of this, big, huge pillars, all these things they built for their God, a God that never heard, a God that never truly responded to them, a God that wanted them to sacrifice, and he was never willing to sacrifice for them. And I just want you to think that in your mind, that we need to be like Moses. We need to be willing to give up the pleasures of this world and the things of this world. No matter how big and how grandeur, how amazing they seem, at the end of the day, thousands of years have passed. Those pharaohs are gone. Those Egyptians who choose to live here are gone. And many of these pillars are completely fading away. Look at it. Fading away. But the love that God instills inside of you, the presence of God that's truly in you, that lives forever. That never fades. That never changes. And so don't be enticed by the things of this world and how big they may look. Look at it, how huge it may look. At the end of the day, they're just dust. They're just dirt. They're just stones. And as time goes on, they fade. They fall. They had to restructure these things because many of them fell. Many of them were falling apart through time. Time exposed that this was not truly God's temple. And so I just wanted to share this with you as something for you to think about. We need to be like Moses, even though we may have been instructed by the wisdoms of this world, the knowledge of this world. We need to remember all of those things are just fading, just like this temple. And they look big, they look grand, but God is not in it. I love you guys. God bless.